I will assume the round of applause was for me and not for the other three people sitting on the stage. It's very good indeed to welcome you this morning to this momentous first dialogue in the St Paul's Institute series, Money, Integrity and Well-Being. For those of you who don't know, my name is Graham Knowles. I am the Dean of the Cathedral, and on behalf of the chapter, I welcome you. It's very good indeed to be able to welcome our distinguished speakers, Prime Minister Gordon Brown and Prime Minister Kevin Rudd, together with the Bishop of London. For those of you who don't know, the Bishop of London is the man in purple on the right-hand end. Trust is hard to win and too easily lost. We're delighted that the two Prime Ministers have accepted the invitation to speak here in St Paul's Cathedral, where the Christian message of justice and right relationship can challenge us all to think hard about how practically and realistically we can rebuild trust in the dramatically changing world in which we find ourselves. I'm now going to hand over to the Bishop of London, my Lord.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Dean. And thanks to the Twyford Choir, who've been entertaining us. I have to be very careful in what I say, but they have just done rather better than runners-up in the BBC Songs of Praise Choir of the Year competition. Fantastic. I simply can't imagine how so many of you found out about today, but it's marvellous to see a full cathedral. For those of you who have not been to one of the St Paul's Institute debates before, may I just explain the format? I'm just going to introduce each of our speakers, and after we've heard from each one of them in turn, we'll move into a panel discussion. And then for the second half of the dialogue, there are questions from the floor. If you have a question, would you be kind enough to write it on the back of your leaflet and hold it up to be counted? We'll collect questions until about 12 o'clock, and I'm sure you'll understand the reason for keeping them brief. We're going to end promptly at 12:30, but before you leave, there'll be an opportunity to contribute to 5 Talents. It's a charity which supports this series on money and ethics. And you'll have been given a gift aid envelope on the way in and a leaflet about 5 Talents. So please fill in the form on the envelope and put your donation in it. There's other information about this series and a whole programme in your white leaflets. And if you'd like to find out more, please fill in the form that's provided and you'll be sent additional information. We really do read all these very carefully and use your suggestions to improve future events. And now, without more ado, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, of course, needs no introduction. This is, I think, his 3rd visit to St Paul's. He was here on the eve of the G8 meeting in Gleneagles. He was inspiring then, and we are delighted to have him back to speak with, we hope, as much passion and commitment as he evinced then. The Prime Minister.
With my friend Kevin Rudd, the Prime Minister of Australia, I come here to St Paul's, a church of enormous beauty and monumental history, a place of sanctuary which amidst the passing storms of time has always been a rock of faith at the centre of our national life. St Paul's is a place to which over the centuries people have come in hope and in faith, a great national institution standing between Westminster and the city, midway on the horizon between the world of politics and the world of finance, and with a lot to teach us both. So just as I came here, as the Bishop has said, to speak in this cathedral before Gleneagles in 2005, I believe there is no more appropriate place to talk with you about the G20 summit, which opens in London tomorrow. And let me also say there is no more appropriate leader to join us in the discussion than Kevin Rudd, a Prime Minister of great courage, a leader of great conscience, and a visionary for reform, and I welcome him to our country. Today, you'll be pleased to know we do not want to talk about the specifics or details or technical financial programmes or policies, but instead we want to talk about enduring values. Indeed, the enduring virtues that we have inherited from the past, which must infuse our ideals and hopes for the future. And I want to suggest to all of you here today that this most modern of crises, the first financial crisis of the global age, has confirmed the enduring importance of the most timeless of truths, that our financial system must be founded on the very same values that are at the heart of the best of our family lives. Instead of a globalization that threatens to become values-free and rules-free, we need a world of shared global rules founded on shared global values. Now, I know it's hard to talk about the future when you're having a tough time in the present. You don't redesign a boat in the middle of a storm. But we do need to talk about the future because it falls to all of us here to shape it. And when Martin Luther King talked about the fierce urgency of now, he asked us to awaken to a tide in human history, which, if missed, means you can end up being literally too late for that history. It's usually only in hindsight that people can interpret the forces which have so transformed their lives. Only in the classrooms of the future that the people of a country can stand back and identify and analyse the great turning points in their national story. But we do not need the benefit of hindsight to know that the sheer scale, scope and speed of today's global changes is throwing up problems which, if we do not address, will condemn millions around the world to a life that is unsustainable, insecure and unfair. There are 4 great challenges of this new global age which our generation must address urgently. Financial and economic instability in a world of global capital flows, environmental degradation in a world of changing energy need, violent extremism in a world of mass communications and increased mobility, and extreme poverty in a world where there are still growing inequalities. Answering